Welcome to Bible Journey. I am Derek, and we are in Zechariah Chapter 4, the first verse. We are going over the fifth night vision. The fifth night vision. And we are in Chapter 4 of Zechariah. Now remember, these are not dreams. They come in the night. He seems to be sleeping or laying on his bed. And we'll see that in a minute in the first verse of Chapter 4 of Zechariah. But these are visions. This is not the word dreams. These are visions, okay? So that's important to remember. And also remember that in the beginning of Zechariah, there's an opening, some words of exhortation to the people at that time. And then immediately he is visited with 8 night visions, and angels are to interpret as other angels come, and he sees a variety of visions. There's 8 of them, and they come in succession. We are in the fifth night vision. Okay, so a couple things to remember too, or other things. Zechariah's name means the Lord remembers, and a key concept is early in the chapter. In the first night vision, it says the Lord spoke to Israel through these visions in Zechariah's prophecies, words of encouragement and words of hope, grace and encouragement. Okay, so he's encouraging the people. So let's jump right into it. The fourth chapter of Zechariah opens, and literally it reads like this, and I'm reading out of the New American Standard. Then the angel who was speaking with me, the angel had been speaking with him because he had seen other visions, and it said, returned and roused me as a man who is awakened from his sleep. So the angel returns and roused him, or like woke him up as a man that is awakened from his sleep. Okay, so it's like the angel gets his attention. Some scholars believe he was sleeping. He might have been on his bed, but these are night visions, and he's specific to point that out. So again, these are not dreams. So the angel that was speaking with him in the prior visions wakes him up. Maybe he even grabs him by the shoulder, hey, and roused him as somebody that is wakened from a sleep. And the angel asks him, Zechariah, what do you see? And he looks, behold, and he sees a pure golden lampstand. Okay, so I'm going to add some imagery right here, a picture, so you can get an idea of what it is that he's seen, but I'll go ahead and break it down, and I'll go ahead and turn to that right now. So, but this is what he sees. So as you can see here, he sees there's the golden lampstand. That is the menorah. That's just not any lampstand. It's got 7 branches or 7 lamps on one lampstand. As you can see, one goes up the center, and then you've got 3 on each side that branch out. This is the menorah. This is the lampstand that he's seeing that stood in the holy place in the temple. And before that, in the tabernacle, when they were before the temple was built. Okay, so this is like light of the world. It lit up the holy place. This was the menorah, what they call the menorah, the 7-branched candlestick, right? So he sees this, and above that, as you can see right here, he sees a bowl. And then from that bowl, 7 pipes from that bowl, right? And then next to the bowl, or on either side of the menorah and this bowl that's on top of the menorah, this golden bowl and golden menorah, you see 2 olive trees. And these olive trees here, as you can see, have pipes running down to it. Right? And so the idea here is, where do you get olive oil? Olive oil was a staple in the Middle East. Not only did they cook with it and they ate it, but they also used it to light lamps. Instead, it's not like modern day today where you just turn on a light. They had to use lamps, and they did stuff like, obviously had torches, like lit fires. But in household settings or in buildings, they had lamps because they didn't have electricity. So those lamps were powered by oil. So they would put it in a lamp, and they would the oil with a wick, right? And so the oil provided the fuel for the lamp. And so the idea of what's going down here is you can see the two trees are feeding olive oil into this golden bowl. And the golden bowl is, so the two pipes into the golden bowl from the trees. And then from that bowl, seven pipes are coming down to each of the lamps of the menorah, providing the fuel. Okay, so that's what he's seeing. And so the angel goes on to say, he interprets this. Verse 2, and he said to me, that's the angel, what do you see? And he said, I see, and behold, a lampstand of gold with its bowl on top of it, and 7 lamps with its 7 spouts belonging to each of the lamps which are on top of it. As I said before just a minute ago, also 2 olive trees by it, one on the right of the bowl and one on the left. Then I said to the angel who was speaking with me, what are these, my Lord? So the angel who was speaking with me answered and said to me, do you not know what these are? Like, you really kind of should know what these are. You don't know what these are? And Zechariah said, no, my Lord. Then he said to me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts. This is a famous verse that you hear often quote in churches, people preaching, believers that talk about it. They often talk about it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. So he sees this vision of the 2 olive trees feeding olive oil into the bowl feeding the menorah with each 7 pipes. And he says, what are these? And he says, these, and he goes on to say, this is what this is. The picture you're seeing is a word of the Lord to Zerubbabel. Not by might, it's not by power, but it's by my Spirit, says the Lord. And so who is Zerubbabel? At the time, Zerubbabel was a leader in Israel. And another big leader at that time was the high priest, who was the high priest. He's the one that went into the Holy of Holies once a year and provided atonement for the nation of Israel as others' duty. So 2 main leaders here at that time, and there were other leaders too, but what's in focus right now is Zerubbabel. As he said, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, and obviously Joshua the high priest, but the words to Zerubbabel. Let's continue reading. He said unto me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts. What are you, O great mountain, before Zerubbabel? You will become like a plain, and he will bring forth on top of the top stone with shouts of grace, grace to it. Okay, so he goes on to say that Zerubbabel had laid the foundation of the house because they were rebuilding the house of the Lord. It had stayed in shambles because in 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar took a bunch of Israelis into exile. They took them as slaves, and the temple was destroyed. I might be off on that a little bit because there was like 2 or 3 different exiles, and then finally the temple was destroyed. But what we have in mind, what we have here is, and he goes on to say, shouts, grace to it. He says grace 2 times, grace, grace. So we have here the picture of God's grace, not only in the life of what we think you and I, God's grace, but for the nation at this time and what he was doing to his, doing for his people and